So this is part 3 of the series, what does an ATS actually do? Now in the last video we understood what happens once you put your CV into the system. So we have discussed that there are three things which happen. One, your resume gets stored. Second, your application is stored. And third, the timestamp is stored. So let's suppose you applied to a role 6 months back and you didn't hear back from the hiring manager. Now you are applying for another role after 6 months. So you just need to keep in mind that all your historic details were still there in the system. So first, all the details that you provided are actually there in the system. So in case you have submitted a poorly formatted resume, that creates a poor impression in the minds of the recruiter who is considering you for another role, because the first impression is already logged in the system. Second is, whatever interviews were conducted, all the details are there in the system. So if you have got a positive feedback, that is there and it will actually help you clear the role the second time. But in case the remarks are negative, as in terms of like you didn't have the right expertise or you didn't have the right experience, or maybe you weren't able to answer the questions properly during the interview. So all the feedback is there in the system for the new hiring manager to see. But there could be other scenario also, in case the feedback was positive and somehow your CV did not move forward, probably because the role got closed or maybe they hired someone internally, then this will now actually help you crack the interview the second time. And third is, there is timestamp. So the system knows like when exactly you applied, if the interview was scheduled or not. In case it was scheduled, what was the feedback and the remarks, and if the offer letter was extended to you or not. In fact, all the exchanges that happen on email between you and the company is also recorded in this ATS system. So they have the entire record of the conversation that has happened with you before. So what does this mean when you actually reapply for another role? So the recruiter sees all the earlier details. So the question that they are asking, what has changed since the last time you applied to this company? Because keep in mind, if 6 months ago you were rejected because of experience, I don't think much will change now. You will face the same outcome. But in case your CV was rejected, probably because you didn't have the right kind of formatting on the CV, or probably because you didn't answer the questions during the interview sharply, then probably you might get another chance. So keep that in mind. Reapplying only makes sense when there is some significant change in your CV, as in you might have got a new experience, or probably you have acquired some new skills, or maybe there is some new changes in the CV and now you want the hiring manager to consider your profile again. There is another important thing which is called the cooling off period. So every company usually has a cooling off period which can be from 6 months till 2 years. This means that if you are applying for another role within this cool off period, it means the CV is not going to be considered further. The system is automatically going to reject your CV. The idea behind this cool off period was to give enough time to the candidate to gain valuable skill set or experience when they apply next. They can actually consider giving you an exception by taking the right kind of approvals from maybe the HR team or maybe the director or maybe the business finance team. And after that, they can extend you an offer. So exceptions exist in every company. It depends on your performance during the previous interview and the current interview, and in case you have a strong connect with someone senior in the company. Now, there's a small thing which was asked to me. So, a lot of companies ask you questions on gender, they ask you questions on your ethnicity, they ask you questions if if you have a veteran status or not, they ask you questions on your disability status. So, while you are filling these details, understand that this is a requirement from the government and thus they have to track this record at an aggregate level. This record is never shared with the individual recruiter or the hiring manager. They never make those decisions based on the answer that you have given to these questions. It is just stored at an overall level for the company because they have to comply with the rules of the government. So never think that your CV is rejected because of these questions, because it doesn't matter at all. The idea behind creating these 3-part series on what does an ATS do was to clarify a lot of myths A lot of people think that the system is rejecting your CV and then they get anxious. A lot of people reach out to me and they ask me questions. What can I do to improve my CV so that the ATS can pass the CV? But that is never the case. It is always the human who is taking those decisions. And thus, I wanted to clarify all these myths through these series. So that is all about this. In case you are genuinely serious about getting into category management, you can check the guides and the resources in the description. You can also connect one-on-one with me on TopMate. The link is there in the description. And in case you found this content valuable, don't forget to subscribe to this channel.